Hi everybody and very welcome to yet another Sunday night live stream here on the Mentour Pilot channel. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic wherever you are out there in the world, and I hope that you haven't been missing me too much during my 2 weeks of vacation. As always, I am running this on my poor 4G mobile internet modem here. So if it starts to lag, don't worry, just wait a little bit and I'll be reconnecting as soon as I possibly can. As always, guys, I'm going to be trying to answer as many questions as I can during this, half an hour to 45 minutes that I'm intending to go. And I will be prioritizing it by the super chat, which I will answer always, and the Mentour Aviation app, which is secondary, and then all of you guys just asking questions here in the chat. I see there's quite a few of you. So that's the plan and for the night, and I'm just waiting for more people to kind of join up. So what we'll do is we will just play the little intro to wait with. I know that you all guys have been waiting for that. And we are back to the live stream. All right, guys. So I have been already receiving a few questions on the Mentour Aviation app that I hope that all of you have downloaded. If you haven't, shame on you. Download it now because it's absolutely free and there's no reason that anyone who's interested in aviation should not have that app. I am planning a major upgrade of it at the moment, and I'm going to need all of your help when the time comes to get that upgrade going. I am actually going to ask some questions to you who are using the app later on, because I'm trying to figure out what the most important upgrades are. But for now, let's just focus on the subjects at hand. So I had a question asking me how long it took for me to go from first officer to captain. And in my airline, I am fortunate to work for an airline who's expanding rapidly, which means that the path going from first officer to captain is relatively quick. Now, what I chose to do is I chose to go take a different step than what's normal. I went, starting my first officer career, I got about 1,500 hours, and then I went in to do the synthetic flight instructor role. So I became a training first officer in the simulator. Now, that is great from a number of reasons. It's one of the best things that I have ever done during my career, because you really, really learn the aircraft and the procedures when you have to teach it to others. But the downside of it was that it didn't give me as much flight hours as I would have if I would just have been staying on the line. I got a lot of time in the simulator, a little bit less flying, which meant that it took me longer to reach the mandatory 3,000 hours that I needed in order to get my command upgrade. But I still managed to get my upgrade after about 4.5 years, which was great for me because I was actually very young when I started. I was only 20 years old when I started. And I didn't feel like I wanted to become a captain when I was only 23, 24. It would feel a little bit too early for me. So this was actually a great way of both delaying it slightly and getting more experience and hopefully becoming a better captain. Because what's important is not to become a quack captain quickly, it's to become a good captain, right? You have to feel ready for it. Most people don't really, you never really feel ready for it because it's such a huge responsibility, but you can be more or less actually mentally ready for it. And when it became my turn after having been an instructor for long, I felt ready, reasonably ready for it anyway, because being an instructor in the simulator is very similar to being a captain actually, because you have to run the session, you have to debrief sometimes quite hard items, you have to tell people what they need to do better and why they didn't do things in the correct way in the first place. So I, that's how long it took for me to keep the answer a little bit shorter. But I was still 25 years old when I became a captain, and since I was already a sim instructor by then, it meant that I was a TRI when I was 25 as well. And then I worked as a normal captain for about a year, and I became a line training captain, and then I became a TRE when I was about 30 years old. So now I was a little bit older actually. I was about 32 when I became a TRE. And now I'm 36. and I'm Thierry, and I'm here with you guys to answer your questions. So I hope that answers the first question I got in the app. Guys, once again, if you have, I'm seeing there's loads and loads of questions coming by now. If you have something really, really important, then use the little dollar sign there. You're donating to the channel and to my company, and I'm using those donations partially to grow the app and to make the app better. So I will definitely answer your questions if you're using the super chat. And here we go. That's my second super chat. Actually, I have to say thank you to Abraham first, who was the first one who actually donated before the stream started, which was great, and thank you for that. The first question is from Daniel Puertas. I started training for pilot license when I was 16, but stopped when I went to college. I'm 40 now. Do those flying hours still count towards requirement for a license? I would say that they probably do. I don't know exactly how many hours they were, as long as you have those hours under your belt. But the thing is, most airlines will definitely count towards getting a higher license. That's so much I can tell you. But when it comes against getting a job, it's a little bit less sure, because they normally ask for a certain amount of hours going back the last 5 or 10 years as well. So they will help you for getting a higher license, for example. But I think that's about it. However, obviously, something you did 20 years ago is not going to actually help you. You're going to, you're going to need to fly those hours again in order to get proficiency back. But I guess you've understood that anyway. Cherub 777, have you thought on building serious sim at home? My wife really wants me to do that. By the way, she's called, if you just tag Alpha Mentor Wife, she's in the app as well. So if you have any questions relating to family life and living together with a pilot, then I would ask you to tag her, and I'm sure she has some great stories to tell you. She wants me to build a sim at home. I don't really want to, because I don't really see the need for it. I sit inside of a sim a big portion of my working day. And I sit inside of a real aircraft for the rest, which is what I'm doing tomorrow, by the way. So you can expect some more stories coming from the line from tomorrow and onwards. But no, unless I plan on actually teaching people MCC courses and stuff like that, I don't think that I'm ever going to be building a sim by myself. I know that there's some great communities out there where it's actually really serious on building these sims, and I'm thinking of maybe going in and visiting some of them, just to check their sims out and maybe show them to you guys. But that's an idea for the channel later on. Cool. Let's see. In the Mentour Aviation app, I see there's loads of questions popping up. So you can see the sim. This is the kind of notifications you get, by the way, when someone wants to talk to you. So if you've posted a question inside of the app and someone sees that question, they can just tag you and give you their answer to the question. So that's one of the great features of the app if you haven't gotten it already. So let's see. Do you have an update on Captain Joe? What's his status? No, I don't. When you first enter the cockpit, Mentor, what are the first things that you do? The first thing I do when I enter the cockpit is I take the tech log up and I check the technical status of the aircraft to make sure that all the systems are working properly before I start flipping any switches. So that's the first thing I do. Sometimes I switch the power on as well, like the battery and the ground power, just to be able to light up the aircraft for the cabin crew to start working. But then I go straight for the tech log to make sure that everything is okay in the aircraft, which is something that my electronic flight bag would have told me anyway. The legal document is the tech log. And after that, depending on if I am the pilot monitoring or the pilot flying, if I'm the pilot monitoring, I will go out and I will start my walk around. I will make sure everything is clear outside of the aircraft, tell my pilot flying then to switch on the hydraulics, and then I'll do the full walk around, checking for any damages, dents, anything that might stick out, anything that is incorrect and that nothing has been tampered with. I'm hoping to get a hold of a 737 to do a full walk around video for you guys. That's on the to-do list. But if I'm the pilot flying, then I will start my pilot flying pre-flight preparation. Okay, and if you want to see how that is done, I have an entire playlist where I show from zero, as in the cockpit being dark and cold, until we start to taxi. All right, that playlist, and it's on sale now inside of the app, by the way. I have lowered the prices with almost 50% for all the major playlists for it to be available to you guys. I don't want to suck your money out, but I do need to pay for the bandwidth of the app. So if you want to see how to set up the aircraft in perfect 360 vision, you can look around, see all the switching I'm doing. I'm explaining each and every switch, then get the full setup playlist from the app. I highly recommend that. So people are asking, as always, if I'm, which airline I'm working for. And as always, I cannot tell you that, because my airline is fully fine with me doing this as long as I do not act as a spokesperson for the airline. So even though it's not a secret in any way, I do not speak about my employer here on the channel or in connection, okay? It is not a secret. Most people can kind of figure out where I'm working, where I'm very proud to work, I should say, but I am not a spokesperson for the airline, so this channel is not to be used for that, which means that I do not tell you here who it is I'm working for. So let's see, more questions from the app then. Let's see, there's no more questions in the super chats. All right, cool. There we are, actually. Tell about British Airways future pilot program. I wish I could. I am not really involved in that program, which means that I can't really speak about it. I know that it used to be a fully funded program, which meant that you applied for it, and if you were selected to come for an interview, you went through that, and if you got in there, then the British Airways would be paying for your entire training from zero to hero, basically. I'm not sure if that's the case anymore, but whenever it comes to these kind of questions, it's much better than, instead of asking me, who's not working for that airline, it's much better if you just go to the website, you go in on the careers, you will see there like recruitment, pilot recruitment. They will list all of the requirements that there is, and also how you do in order to apply for that program. So that's what I would do if I were you. And by the way, that goes for every single airline out there. Just go and check it out, guys. You can go to any airline's homepage. They're all going to have the same. It's going to tell you if they are recruiting. They're going to tell you what the requirements are. And I would recommend that most of you go out and check out maybe 4 or 5 airlines in the area that you're hoping to fly, because it will give you a picture of what you will need. If loads of them need you to do to get a degree, a university degree, well then you know that you need to get a university degree first. If they don't, well then you know that you don't need to, for example. So check that out, okay? And if you, by the way, if you need to get if you need to prepare for an airline interview, for example, then I still have a cooperation with a UK firm that does preparation for airline interviews and flight school interviews, called airlineprep.co.uk. And in the description, I did a video about how to prepare for flight school, and in the video description there is a link for that app. All right, you can go in and check that out. It will help you to build your CV. It will help you to prepare for interviews and things like that. So it's highly recommended to do. Valerio Viscareno, hi, and thank you very much for using the super chat. Where do you get a school from if you do a modular course with multiple schools as required by some airlines? Yeah, that can be a little bit tricky. What you're going to have to do is basically try to stick to the same school towards the end of your schooling, like for the CPL stage and the ATPL theory stage, for example, because it's generally the school that you did your CPL part from that going to require or give the paperwork required for the airlines. It's a good idea before you sign up with any school to kind of talk to them about this, right? If you're going down the modular route, then you need to have a plan for how to get the final paperwork out of the school. So make that, put that into your planning stage for your modular training course. The flight schools will know what you're talking about. So just tell them, and also maybe maybe take a screenshot or a copy of the requirements from the airline that you're looking for, and show that to the flight school and say, listen, can you provide this to me if I go through your CPL course? But it's a great question, and it's something that you really want to have check on before you sign up with any flight school. And this is why it's trickier to do the modular course, because you have to think of these things. If you go an integrated course, they will have a kind of a package deal where everything is done for you. But it is also why you can save up to 50% of the price if you're going through the modular course. And it's because you need to take care of a lot of these things. All right. So great question. So, Theodore, Dijkstra, thank you very much for supporting the channel. I don't see any question. And if you did have a question, then if you get to the Mentour Aviation app and you go to support, provide feedback, or in the settings, that you press that, send me an email, and I will answer that email to you. Just present yourself and tell me that you use Super Chat, but you didn't get a question through. Right, so Tech PK in the normal chat. Sir, please answer. I do try to answer all of the questions that I can, but I do prioritize in the way that I said in the beginning. It costed me £1,200 for ground crew classes. Is that reasonable? $1,200, I should say. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Well, that depends on what kind of ground school classes you're talking about, obviously. It sounds quite cheap if it's the frozen ATPL. If it's PPL only, yeah, something in that. Like, it was so long since I was actually in this flight school business myself, so I don't know exactly where the price ranges are, but yeah, I don't think that it's unreasonable. Right, so Simon Beasley, thank you very much for supporting. Great to have you here. Would you consider flying for Virgin Galactic if that type of aviation was to become popular and become viable? What are your thoughts on space tourism? Yeah, I probably would. I think because I like technology and I like those kind of leaps. Now, with viable, I would assume that it means that there is a good safety and security program in force, and that it's reasonably safe to do it. All right. I am not, since I have family and kids, I'm not really into doing crazy daredevil stuff, right? I fly for airlines because it's the safest way of flying there is. So yeah, now space tourism, I'm not a huge fan of, to be perfectly honest. I think it's cool, but I think that humanity faces some quite dire problems when it comes to climate change and general pollution problems. So, you know, shooting millionaires up into space just so that they can spacewalk is not on the top of my priority list for what we should be doing. All right. In fact, there's probably more flying than should be at the moment, and that goes for all kinds of extreme tourism. Or I've just been to Thailand, okay, and I can see what happens when there's a lot of tourism to a certain place, like these fantastic paradise islands out in the archipelago in the Andaman Sea is full of plastic garbage because tourists have been bringing garbage to the islands, have been throwing them away, and I think that we should all be taking much more care of what we're doing and how we're spending our CO2 emissions. All right, so that's why space tourism for me, not a fantastic fan unless we can find a good viable source that doesn't pollute much. And now, if we can do, for example, space travel, as in getting up into higher, into like suborbital flight, where we can get from New York to Sydney in a much shorter time, and possibly not polluting the atmosphere as much, then that would be something I would be in favor of. That would be smart, I would say, but we need to work quite hard to make new engines and stuff like that viable before that ever happens. But Virgin Galactic, maybe, would be my answer to that. So Anthony Lay, thank you very much. College honors bachelor degree versus private flight school integrated program or modular program for better pilot career, pros and cons. Well, like the bachelor degree, the college bachelor degree, if that includes your licenses, that is probably a good thing, all right? If you can get a degree and your licenses at the same time, then that's great. If you're in a place like the United States, for example, or even China, I believe you might need a degree in order to be able to apply for airlines, in which case you need to go through this. Okay, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. If you go into the airlines recruitment pages, they will statute there. They will put down exactly what you need, and in most cases, they will just require a degree. So it doesn't necessarily has to be a degree in aviation. All right. Now, a degree in aviation can be good because if you want to later in your career maybe move up the ladder, you know, go into management positions and stuff, then a degree of that sort could be great to have. But it's not really necessary otherwise. Okay, it's just there to kind of entice your aviation bug. If you're going towards an airline or you're in a part of the world where they don't require you to have a degree, I would just focus on finding a good flight school and get my flying done so I can get my licenses so I can start applying for work. But, and this is something that I'm also pushing all the time, it's great to have a degree because you never know what happens to this industry or what happens to your aviation kind of the aviation bug, or if you find out this was not for you, or if something happens to you and you lose your medical, for example, then you can use that degree and you can fall back on something. So if you have an economics degree, if you have an MBA, or you have something else, then you can kind of go back and you can maybe start a company within the travel business or something that you know stuff about. So a degree is always good to have if you have the time and the money to get it. All right. Otherwise, not so much. I would probably go straight for flight training. That's what I did myself, and that worked out quite well. Theodore Dijkstra, again, thank you. Quick thought on Qantas wanting to create a new class for packs in cargo area on long flights. What? I would say that it's because it's the 1st of April today. If you checked out when that was coming out, I'm guessing that came out today. Just have a look at that. Sorry to spoil it for you, but it sounds very much like a April Fool's joke. Michael McConaughey, there we go. Just started flight training in the UK last week. What is the current outlook for pilot recruitment in Europe at the moment? At the moment, looking great. At the moment, I've never seen it better. The low-fare airlines are recruiting like crazy. They're trying to poach pilots from each other. And when they do that, it means that there's a lot of pilots being sucked up into the low-fare airlines. So the smaller airlines will also lack people. And in Europe at the moment, I've never seen, like I said, I've never seen it better. The bigger boys as well are recruiting. Emirates have a huge order on stock. They will be taking pilots out of the low-fare airlines, which means that low-fare airlines will continue to need pilots. So at the moment, it looks very good. Now, having said that, and I always put a caveat in when I talk about these things, that this looks great, but you never know what happens in this industry, and it can happen very, very quickly. We've been on an upward spiral for a couple of years now, and my experience is that the aviation goes in cycles of about 5 to 6 years, and this has been upwards for a good 4 or 5 years now. So it is a possibility that it will be a small dip, but I wouldn't worry too much about it at the moment. With the outlook of what it is now, it looks great. But if Donald Trump chooses to bomb Iran or something like that, then everything can change overnight. So it's always good to be cautious when I come into predictions on the aviation outlook. But Michael, best of luck. I really hope it goes well for you, and all of you guys who are in training out there, remember that you've started the training now. Focus on it, make the best out of it. It's going to be fun. The training in itself is going to be fun. If you get into the airlines later on, the fun will just continue to grow. All right. So there's going to be hardships. There's going to be really hard work needed from you guys, but you can do it, and you know you can. So best of luck to all of you out there who's watching this. Let's see, more questions here. Can you guide on the pathway about how to join Emirates Airlines right from my CPL? I don't think that is possible. All right. There's no, as far as I'm aware, unless you've gone through their own flight school, I don't think that you can jump straight into to Emirates. It's as easy as that. And once again, if you go in, you look at their recruitment page, you will see that I think they require something about 2,000 hours. I haven't been there for long, but it's somewhere around 2,000 hours, 2,500 hours or something like that needed in order to apply at all. That means that you can't go from CPL and apply to them. They won't even look at your application, all right? Unless you are an Emirati and you've gone through some kind of route that they have chosen for you, okay? So the route that you have to take is you have to go and you have to apply for whatever job you can get, just like everyone else. Get flight hours as much as you can on as good types as you can, and work your way up, and then eventually you will reach the minimum hours and you can apply. And then I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you'll be really happy, and I'm sure you can do it. Graham Hyper, thank you. Do you get excited to fly new versions of the 737? Yeah, I'm actually looking forward like a child on Christmas Eve to fly the 737 MAX when we get that one. And there's always some new perks and stuff coming up. The new models that's coming in, we get new aircraft all the time. They always have some little new things on them that we need to read up on, and they're normally quite cool. So yeah, we do. Boys will be boys, and I guess some, I shouldn't say that because that's not the way. Well, everyone who's interested in technology are like this, all right? If you are interested in technology, which most of us are, then because that's where you went into this in the first place, then of course you're excited to fly new versions. So is it important not to level off on approach? Why? That depends on your company policy. We, in my airline, try to do constant descent approaches. That's because it burns less fuel and it's much less noisy. All right, because whenever you need to level off, it means that you need to throttle up in order to keep the altitude and the speed, which means that there will be more noise, more fuel burn. Okay, so when you're flying a Cessna, for example, doesn't matter that much. You're flying a 737, you do a constant descent approach, it's good. And into some airports like Stansted in London, for example, or all the London airports, all the UK airports almost, they require you to do constant descent approaches. And if you don't, they will monitor it, then you will get a letter, the captain will get a letter, the airline will get a letter, and your statistics, the whole airline statistics will go down for your constant descent approach stats, basically. So they do that because of noise, because of pollution. So it is important to a certain extent, yes. Which general aviation plane from Cherub 777? Which general aviation plane would you buy for yourself or family? If I would ever buy an airplane, which I don't think that I ever will, I've seen the Diamond aircraft. I really like them. I like all the Burt Rutan designs as well. The more aerodynamic, the more smart, the more highly tech the aircraft is, the more I like them. And the Diamond aircraft, the smaller ones, the DA20, I think, or something like that, looks like you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I would say I would probably go for that. But having said that, I'm not up to date when it comes to general aviation in general. Milton Pinheiro, thank you very much. Is it possible to get into wind shear situation without the aircraft system identifying the wind shear? Yes, it is. Because the weather radar is dependent on moisture. Okay, there needs to be moisture content in the air for the weather radar to be able to detect the wind shear. So if it's very extremely strong winds like it's been in the UK during the winter, for example, or out here in Spain yesterday, it was gusting up to 60 knots in Costa Brava, then there might be dry air that is suddenly stopping and coming on. That is still wind shear, but you might not get a warning, which is why we base our wind shear escape maneuver not only on the oral alerts, but also if you have significant deviations on the glide slope, which is like 1 dot, if you're maintaining a inappropriate thrust setting for a inappropriate time. So for example, you're sitting on approach, you should have about 60% by then. You're sitting with 90% and you're still having problem keeping the speed, you're in wind shear and you need to do the wind shear escape maneuver. Same if you drop the airspeed with more than 15 knots, like that. These are all conditions that is indicative of wind shear, okay? So yeah, you can have a wind shear without the weather radar telling you anything. Gamer FTV 184. Sorry I'm late. What have I missed? Well, let's see. We start from the beginning. I started with introduce. No, I'm just kidding. Fortunately, this will be saved for at least a day on the channel, and then I'm going to take it away. Okay, so you can just go back and you can recheck it. But it's great to have you here now, and I am ready to answer any question that you might have. Oh, by the way, guys, I am taking away the live streams after a while. They will still be available. If you go into live feeds, the playlist, what live feeds, you'll be able to find my live streams there. But I don't want them to clog up the channel because I'm doing quite a few of them. So I don't want people, when they go into the channel, to see like 15 live streams between, between all of the more popular videos, because no matter how I do this, there's always going to be almost about 10,000 views in total on these live streams, which is all of you, my core fans, my core viewers who are watching this. But the rest, they will not really care for an hour-long, talking head video. So that's why I just put it into the live feed and that live feed playlist, and that's it. Cool. Pulastaya Parek, tell us about your trip to Thailand, the aviation part. I am still thinking about maybe doing a video on that, but I'll give it to you. Anyway, so I did, there was a lot of flying involved to get me to Thailand. We chose to go from England, which meant that we needed to fly from Barcelona up to London, change from London Stansted to Heathrow. Then we flew from Heathrow to Bangkok, and then from Bangkok to Krabi. So we flew on the majestic Airbus 380, and I have to tell you that that is a fantastic aircraft to fly on as a passenger. We managed to get upper deck, the economy class, because that's just how it is. Economy class upper deck. You can hardly, I mean, you can speak normally, a normal like speaking voice during the takeoff roll. That's how quiet it is. It was amazing to fly it as a passenger. So I think Airbus has done a fantastic job on that. It is huge though. As in it's like a boat. It is enormous, but you know, I did not go up to the flight deck. I have been to the flight deck to the 380 before, but when I'm traveling as a passenger, I just like to enjoy the fact that I am a passenger. I look out, I see the curious things that you would think of, like how long it takes them to take out flaps, what flap settings they're using, with whether or not they're using speed brakes during the descent, landings, the takeoff time, and stuff like that. You know, you watch those things out of pure reflex, but I just enjoyed it. That's what I want to say. It's a completely different type of operation from what I'm doing, so I enjoy watching it. But the trip in Thailand otherwise was fantastic. Absolutely great. I highly recommend going to Ao Nang and to Krabi. It's a beautiful piece of the western coastline. Loads of little islands that you can go to. Unfortunately, it's starting to become a bit expensive. It's almost European prices now in order to go out to the islands and even to eat there. So that was a little bit disappointing because I've been there many, many times. Normally you get a lot of bang for your buck there, but now it's kind of like being in Costa Brava. So that was a disappointment. But otherwise, people are friendly, the food is beautiful, the weather is crazy good. So great stuff. Mayur Baviskar, can I join any flagship airline after CPL? No, normally you can't. Normally you need more hours. You need flight experience in order to join the flagship's carriers, and any carrier really. So this is what I was talking about before, that you need to kind of get your CPL, you need to start gathering hours, and that can be done in many ways. Normally though, people try to just find a job of any sort. It can be flying, pulling gliders, or doing parajumping activity, maybe doing fire surveillance in the beginning while you are sending out your CVs. There are airlines in Europe, for example, the low-fare airlines, they do only require you to have the minimum hours, so you can go straight into the right seat of a 737 if you are living in a part of the world where these kind of airlines exist. But going into a flag carrier normally requires you to either have gone through their cadetship programs, which there are a few. Air France, for example, have a fully funded cadet program. So if you're French or you speak French and you can work in the European Union, then check that out. But I'm getting that it's you and several tens of thousands other people who want to go there. But then you can go through their airline training program, and then they can take you out straight out of training. But otherwise, almost impossible. You need to work your way up like we've always done. Abraham, thank you very much. That's the second donation from you today. Very good. Casper Caceres, hi Peter. Did you enjoy your holidays? Did you hear about the Instagram pilots of EasyJet? I think they didn't saw your podcast last week. Well, actually, yes, I did enjoy my holiday. Thank you very much. It's great, and I actually did that video because of the media attention that was focused around the Instagram profiles, right? So that was a response. That's why I did that video in the first place, because I wanted to give you my thoughts on it. Now, having said that, the press has a tendency to kind of find these things and go with it. They take it greatly out of perspective and make it into something much bigger than it actually is. But the core of the thing, which is what my video is, if you haven't seen that, just check out my video about pilots misbehaving. But that's, the point I wanted to make is that you have to think about what you're doing. Social media can be a very dangerous thing. I know that what I'm saying can potentially reach hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, which means that I have to be very careful with what I'm saying about certain things, about how I'm reacting, about what kind of pictures that I'm posting. I'm very aware of that. But what people don't realize is that even if you don't have, tens of thousands of followers or Instagram, whatever, your picture can still start to go viral. You can have 15, but it turns out that one of those 15 is a famous Instagrammer who think that it's hilarious when you post a picture of yourself with a noose in the cockpit, and they share that on social media, and then it goes viral, and all of a sudden, even though you weren't prepared for it, your picture is now out there. You are going to have to explain to your airline why you chose to do that. So think about it. Anything that you post, especially with regards to your employer, no matter if it's an airline or something else, anything that you post in connection with that might well be taken up, and it might not be taken in the way that you thought it was going to be. So be very careful with it. So Daniel Marable, thank you very much. What does it take to train for new aircraft such as the 777? Is it something you're interested in doing? Yeah, I would love to fly the 777. It's a cool aircraft. I am not really interested in changing over to long haul, especially now. I'm really jet lagged. So now I definitely know what jet lag is all about. But what it takes is a type rating, and type rating is fairly quick. You go to the training organization who's going to do the type rating. Normally that's connected to the airline you're flying for, and then you do about a 2 to 2.5 month course on whatever aircraft that you're going to fly on, and that's it. You do your skill test on it, then you do your base training, which is a minimum of 6 takeoffs and landing in the real aircraft. So if you're doing it on a 747 or 380, it means that you're going up in an empty 747 or 380 and you're doing 6 touch and go landings in the real aircraft, and after that you can lift your type rating and you can fly it. So everyone does this, all pilots do this. Cool. So Meyer Baviskar, international standard selected for airline cadet program. I'm Indian, as you said. Air France has it. Yeah, Air France does have it. I think I heard rumors about British Airways maybe starting it up again, but I'm not sure about that. I know KLM used to have it as well. Lufthansa, I think, has some kind of variant on it where they might bond you. And this is something that comes back more and more. You'll see airlines will start to stop paying for more and more of the training cost. Now, Ryanair went out and did it last month. But they normally bond you because they want you to stay in the airline. Okay, it's really important for them that they make sure that they have the continuation of you, because you are important as a first officer, but they look at you as a potential captain. That's why they employ you. And if you are just there to gain hours and then you go off, then that's a problem for the airline. So they will try to bond you, which is great. In my view, I think that's fair. If you choose to go anyway, you're going to need to pay back the cost of some of the course, and that's normally decreasing as long as you're staying. So maybe if they bond you for 7 years and you go after 5 years, then you need to pay a smaller part of it. But this is how bonding works. Very few airlines will give you training for free and not ask anything back from you. That's not how the world works, unfortunately. So, CA97, were you ever in flight where the cabin crew asked if there was a pilot on board due to an emergency? No. I have, though. I have been on a flight where, in my own airline, where the captain got sick after landing. So they were out in the sticks, as in far up in northern Sweden, and the captain didn't feel well. He didn't want to continue to fly, so he offloaded himself, and there was not a base, which means there was no crew there. And I was flying back as a passive captain, going back from my vacation, basically back to work. So I was in uniform, which, when you're traveling as passive crew, you're in uniform. And so they asked me if I could fly it back, and I said, well, yeah, because I was fit to fly and everything was ready. So instead of traveling back as a passenger, which was what I was preparing for, I got in, I briefed the crew, I checked out the weather, and uploaded the fuel, and I flew it back instead, which was weird from a mental standpoint to kind of switch from vacation to travel to working mode, but worked fine, and it meant that that we could get back on time. There was no delay for the passengers. The captain, he got better, and he flew back with different flight later on. Cool. Guys, I'm going to have to start cutting this short because I'm going to start working earliest tomorrow and I'm doing line training with a cadet who still needs a safety pilot, which means that I need to go to bed and prepare myself, and I need to get some food to my lovely family as well. So I'm going to take a few more questions here. If there's more super chat questions, I'll take them, and then I am going to retire for the next, and I'm going to keep making videos. Obviously on Friday will be a new video. Haven't really decided on what to show you yet, but it will come. So the last couple of questions here in the super chat. I'm currently studying electrical engineering at a great university in London. If I were to become a pilot later on, would it be a perk when seeking employment? Not necessarily. All right, it's a good thing to have. Having any kind of engineering degree is great. It means that you're going to be able to take up the technical part of the training in a good way. You know, it might not be like that they're putting you on top of the pile just because you have an engineering degree. But then again, some airlines might. I can't speak for all airlines, but it's definitely not on the downside. It's definitely on the plus side, but not maybe something that will kind of tip the balance up in favor of you all the way. All right, so I would definitely continue that degree. Like I said before, it's great to have that as a background, and if you want to become a technical pilot, for example, or a test pilot at some point, it's probably going to help you. But when it comes to actually beating the competition, maybe not in a big way. Okay. Sean Rady, thank you very much. Great. Hi, Mentor. Do you think that we will ever see another supersonic airliner? Yeah, I do. I think that it's actually on almost finishing production as we speak. If you've checked out the Baby Boom experiment, I think Japan Airlines have gone in to sponsor that, which is a supersonic small airliner. I don't know how many they can take, but it's a small one. And if there's a small one, they can make a big one. So yeah, I think we're going to see it soon. It's going to be one of those things that the airlines are going to want to have as a premium thing, first class kind of travel, and it's likely that they're, you know, that we have the engine capability and stuff to do it in a more economic way than the Concorde was. So yeah, I think we're gonna see it. Cool. Roll. Let's see if there's something popping up in the Mentour Aviation app then to finish this off, unless there's any more super chat coming up. Well, Major Besker, better international standard accepted from another country. All right, I can't really understand what you mean there, Major. I think, yeah. I mean, normally you will be able to kind of convert whatever previous experience you have or schooling experience you have into the airline. The most important thing is that you have the working visas and the right to live and work in the country that you're going to. But I'm sure that whatever previous experience you have schooling wise can be translated. But you're gonna have to check that out with the airline that you're applying for or the school that you're going into. So, Wisdom Nasaki, is EasyJet a good airline to apply for after finishing your modular training without the type rating? Yeah, EasyJet is a great airline. You know, it's a good airline to work for. I've only heard positive things about them. So yeah, if you can get into EasyJet, then great for you. But basically, all of these established airlines, all the low-fare airlines and stuff, they're good, safe airlines to start working for. So I could recommend probably all of them for you. So just go for it if you can. So how does your work hours look like? Family time from Danman in the app here. I work. I have a little bit of a special roster because I am a training manager as well as a line training captain. So I work on a 4-3 roster, which means that I work Monday to Thursday. I'm off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I so far at least. We'll see if that keeps. And I work every other week. I work earlys, and every other week I work legs. Which means tomorrow, for example, I'm going to start really early. And then like at 6 o'clock I think we start, and then I'll be working almost 12 hours because it's a really long day tomorrow. I'm going to be going to Charleroi and to Belfast, so it's a long day, and then I have a standby day, and then I have another 2 long days, and then I'm gone, you know, then I'm off, and then next week I'll be working on late shift. So that's how it is. I have quite a lot of time at home with my family. Standby days if it doesn't get cold. I have a lot of time, and otherwise otherwise, yeah, even if I'm working long days, I still tend to have a little bit of time. It's better on late though than on early, I have to say, but that's just because I don't like getting up in the morning. Mentor, how does the flight computer works? I have no idea how the flight computer works, okay, because I'm not a computer engineer. The only thing I can say is that the FMC, the flight management computer, and the FMS, the flight management system, inputs data from a lot of different sources, like the pitot probes, the static probes, the weight on wheel switches, the flap position, all of that. It works. It takes together all of the information, mixes it up, and it give output to us for us to interpret it through our screens and through our CDU. So exactly how the coding works, I can't tell you. You know, you're gonna have to ask an engineer for that. So, Mentor, what are the chances likely for applying for a vacancy without meeting the asked minimum flight hours for regional turboprop operators? Normally, guys, you cannot apply if you don't meet the minimum. All right, there's a simple reason for that. Normally, they have established a minimum because of, for example, insurance reasons. They are not allowed to employ someone if they don't meet those minimum requirements. So if you apply and you do not meet the minimum requirement, your application will just go straight down into the dump, and they will never even look at it. Okay. Now this is different. The smaller the airlines are, the easier it is to kind of go past that. If you know someone that might be able to do an exception for you, it's just like with anything, you know. If you know someone who works in the local candy shop, and they say they have a policy for only employing people that are 25 years or older, and you're 23, but you know the manager, you can get in. Now that's true with the smaller airlines, the regional ones, the turboprops, the people, you know, the airlines that's flying mail or whatever. It can work that way. All right? I'm not saying it does always, but I'm saying that the smaller the airline is, the bigger the chances. But generally speaking, if they do have a minimum requirement, you will not be able to surpass that. Right? That's the general rule to be kept. Right. Cool, guys, that's it. I'm gonna have to get off now because I have to go to bed, or I have to get something to eat as well. Guys, once again, I just want to tell you to please download the Mentour Aviation app and go in there and be active. We have about 15,000 people in there at the moment, that's monthly users. I want it to be much more, and I'm going to ask you a question, and that's something that I want you to go into the app now to answer. Okay, so all of you guys who are watching this in the app, I want you to tell me why you like using the app. Okay? Why do you come back to the app? What are the features that you like using? What is the things that you like the most? Right? Because I need to know that, because that's going to tell me what I should be focusing on for it to be even better for you guys. So if you're using the app, if you're a recurrent user, go in there. You must know why you open the app up. Okay, what is it that makes you want to push the Mentour Aviation icon? Tell me inside of the chat now. I'm going to be live in the chat for a while, so please do that, all right, because I really need the input on that. And also, I'm going to keep sending out whenever something major happens. I have more people helping me out now. Jack, Davey, you are helping me, which is great, highly appreciated. I also have some new mods here in the chat that you might have noticed. So there's more and more people helping out, which means that the content becomes better and better. But I need to know what you guys like. So you can expect more notifications. By the way, I've gotten the feedback that some guys don't like notifications, but the app really needs you to have the notifications available, okay? Because it's all about me telling you when I do live streams, when there's something happening, maybe there's been an accident somewhere, and we can go in and discuss that, or just general information about stuff. So, and also, if you don't have the notifications up in the app, it means that when someone is answering your question or someone wants to reach you to just chat about things, you will not see it. So make sure that you have activated notifications. And I've done an update, by the way. Those of you who've had problems with selecting a chat nickname, that's gone now, right? It's fixed, okay? So there's been a new update to the app. If you get the app now and you go in, you can choose the nickname without any kind of problem. I guarantee you that. But remember, it's a little bit backwards. When you go in for the first time, you need to put your email address and your password in before you hit register. Before, okay? because if you just hit register, it's just going to tell you that you're using an inaccurate email address. Okay, it's a little bit backwards, I know, but that's the way it works. You can see it as your first test on if you have the thing you need in order to become a pilot. Right, so let's see. They have some last questions here on the super chat that I will be covering before we go. Would love to build your new app. Do you need support? No, I'm not going to be building a new app. All right, I'm going to be building on the one I have, because I have a great team of people working on the app in India. I do have to pay them money, but when I pay them money, I get an app that works perfectly, seamlessly between both Android and iOS, which is great, and it's not easy to do. So they're doing a great job, and so I'm going to keep working with them for now. And I don't want to work. I already have a few apps available, so I want to make sure that this app is the good app. I want to have this app to be the app where everyone who's interested in aviation has it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Mayur Baviskar, sir, I'm going to join a flight school. Want to go for a cadet training program, but I have no idea. People from India accepted in European cadet programs. Please guide. If I don't remember if your Indian citizenship gives you a dual citizenship in the UK still or not. If that's the case, as long as the UK is still in Europe, means that you'll be able to go to the UK to do your flight training there and possibly apply for an airline there. If that's not the case, then I don't really know exactly what you need. You're going to need to go to your consulate and see what kind of visa programs you need to apply for. And then start looking for flight schools. But I believe there's quite a few good flight schools in India as well. And if you go into the Mentour Aviation app, there's loads of Indian users in there, and they will be able to guide you better than I can. So do that. It's one of the many good features of the app that I connect people from all over the world, and they can be helping you out. You know, ask a question, and I'm sure that you're going to get a positive and a constructive answer back. Have an absolutely fantastic day, guys, wherever you are. Take care of yourselves. Keep working towards that goal. You know you can do it, and keep following the channel. I'm going to try to continue doing great content for you guys. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.